Hello, good people of the internet. Welcome to The Unlearning Playground, an everyday life podcast by Chetan Narang. Has it ever happened to you that you read or listened to something somewhere and now you couldn't help but feel that everyone should go through it too? Well, before I dive into the episode, if your answer to this question is a yes and you haven't shared it with me yet, make sure you drop me a DM on my Instagram. I would love to hear about it. The link to my Instagram is in my show notes. Anyway, this episode is dedicated to one such quote I came across a few years ago and the realization that followed. I was reading Walden by Henry David Thoreau and I came across a line that resonated with me so hard that I must have quoted it like a gazillion times in conversations already. The quote goes like this: the farmer is endeavoring to solve the problem of a livelihood by a formula more complicated than the problem itself. I repeat myself. The farmer is endeavoring to solve the problem of a livelihood by a formula more complicated than the problem itself. Now, Thoreau wrote the book in 1850s and it is December 2021 as of today. And need I say that we modern humans, the formulae that we apply to solve our livelihoods, are only getting more and more complicated as time goes by. And unpacking these formulae is the need of the hour. Isn't that true? I can say with complete conviction that it is. In the name of earning a livelihood or paying our bills, as we like to call it, we humans have gone so far beyond the line that we do not even see it anymore. Or, as Joey would put it, the line is a dot to us. Seriously though, I honestly feel that in modern times we have really forgotten that life, at its very basic, is not eventually as complicated as we are making it out to be. And that is primarily because we don't know any better. In a fast paced life, which a lot of us in developed and even developing cities live, we hardly get time to slow down, to step back, and to look at our lives from an observer's viewpoint, from a zoomed out viewpoint. So, we kind of keep doing what we are doing and what others around us are doing. It is monkey see, monkey do at a whole different level now. Let me share an incident that happened with me a few years ago, which really jolted me and forced me to think deeper. I was returning back from work in the evening one day with a friend who used to work with me. It had been a long day at work, I presume, because it was getting dark. At least that is the image in my head now. Usually, after we got off the bus, it was a 10 to 15-minute walk back home. So we would usually walk back and just chat about anything and everything. Except that on this particular day, my friend received a call from his roommate that they were all out of groceries back home and he would have to buy some before he comes back. So my friend asked me if we could stop by the nearby supermarket so he could buy some, and I obliged. So we entered the mart and I was just strolling alongside him and I observed him cunning through the process like the Flash. I mean, he picked up 4-5 bags from the counter, stuffed veggies in them, rushed to the checkout counter, and literally within 5 minutes we were out of the supermarket with a bag full of groceries on our way back home. But something about what just happened didn't feel right to me. A thought popped up in my head that here is a guy who spent an entire day working in the office, and he was, and pretty sure still is, a very intelligent and a very diligent worker. So he would have spent the entire day doing whatever he was doing at work to the best of his knowledge and the best of his capabilities. But somehow, when it came to buying food for himself, he just rushed through the process as if this is something not important, something secondary. Not that important. And something didn't feel right to me about it. You know, Granted that we were getting late in getting back home, and his purchase of groceries would delay me even more, that would have been acting on his mind because he was a considerate guy. And so I do not blame him for rushing through the purchase on that particular day. But that is not the point I'm trying to make anyway. The point is that that particular incident really made me think, how many times would I have done something similar? And the answer, an extremely uncomfortable one, was a lot of times. And that really made me uncomfortable. But as is always the case, growth stood on the other side of the discomfort. And here I am sharing it all with you. I have reflected many times on the thoughts this little incident triggered in me. And those reflections really did open me up to the glaring reality that in modern times, we do not even realize that our jobs, our careers, our businesses are a means to an end and not an end in themselves. Yet, so often in our daily lives, we act as if these things are much more important and deserve much more of our attention than a whole lot of other stuff. And more often than not, that other stuff is why we're doing our jobs and our businesses in the first place. You know, to buy food, to take care of our close ones, to relax, and so on and on. Only you can say where it manifests in your particular life. But one thing is common for all of us. We certainly have complicated our means to earn our livelihoods much more than the original problem actually demanded. I know for a fact that a lot of us modern humans feel very teary eyed about our jobs and our careers, and we value them a lot. And in fact, we value them so much that that is all we do all of our adult lives these days. And thereby, we block ourselves from all other possibilities that life has to offer. Don't we do that? We do. And it's high time we accept it. I cannot point to you specifically, but if you're listening to this right now, I invite you to think on what decisions you might be taking right now in the name of advancing your career or paying your bills or being independent or earning your livelihoods, which are really not that important from a zoomed out point of view. Our careers, our jobs are a means to an end, not an end in themselves. And in that sense, they aren't that important. Yet somehow we have made them the cornerstones of our lives. Have you ever heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? If you haven't, I'll give you a very brief overview. It essentially says that there is a hierarchy of needs that every human being has. You start with the most basic ones, your physiological and safety needs, food, water, clothes, shelter, which is what we call roti kapda makan in Hindi. Then there is a belonging need, a need to be a part of a family, a part of a group, a society, a friend circle, anything. Then there is an esteem need, a recognition, respect, freedom need, and so on. And the hierarchy goes all the way up to self actualization, manifesting our truest potential. And let me tell you, just so we are very, very clear on the subject, a human being's truest potential is not becoming the CXO in some company, even if it is your own company. That is merely a very small part of the game we are all playing here collectively. There are bigger things to do, people, bigger realizations to be had, bigger jobs to be done. Rise above the slumber. If you wish to see just a glimpse of what truths you might be missing out in your everyday life as to what life with a capital L has to offer, check out episode 5 of this show. It is about an objective truth about life that everyone must understand and not just believe. But remember, The pointer in that episode is just a glimpse. This is a topic I will come back to many times in this show, but as of the date of recording of this episode, I would refer you to episode 5 of the show, just to plant the seeds. Anyway, so back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think it is reasonable to say that a hierarchy exists in our needs. But what we tend to miss out on is that no one will ever come and tell us where we are on the hierarchy and when it's time to move on. It's not a strict hierarchy anyway, in the sense that you always have to provide for your physiological needs. You remember? Food, clothes, shelter. You always have to keep working for those needs, no matter how actualized you are. So, you would always work a job, you would always own a business, or rather, you would always make money. It's not that an actualized person wouldn't do any of these things. And so, it's also not true that you would have to stop doing these things to achieve actualization. The crux of the matter is how you're doing it and not what you are doing. I mean to say that at the very heart of this entire discussion lies how you're doing whatever it is you are doing. How much value you place to your job, your career, your business. Is that the central part of your life? If you are an actualized person or are consciously on the path to it, it is fine to have your work as the center of your life. But if you have never done anything else apart from your work, have never stepped back and observed the flow of your own thoughts, have never meditated on God, on life, on what it means to be a complete human being, it's extremely likely that you are the farmer Thoreau was talking about, the one entangled in a solution more complicated than the problem itself. Now, none of this is an invitation to become an obnoxious worker who uses this as an excuse to justify getting away from work, or even an invitation to renounce everything and to go live in the mountains to actualize. Not at all. If anything, consider this as an invitation to re-evaluate the value you are placing on your job, your career, your business, etc. And you can do that only from the situation you are in at the moment. Of course, if you are a student who hasn't even started working professionally yet, or if you have some loans to pay off, or some other needs to address urgently, none of this would matter to you until that block is cleared. And that is normal. It's okay. I myself know that just a few years ago, when I had debts to clear, I would not have been able to act on this invitation even if it resonated with me. And I think it would not have resonated with me at the time. Consider someone who's living without even their basic physiological needs being fulfilled. It's normal for there to be situations where one cannot act on any of what I'm talking about. But there are a whole lot of us who aren't really in such situations but think ourselves to be so. Only you can say that for yourself. It might be an uncomfortable fact to digest. Not that you are in a good position in your life, that is always good to know. But what might be uncomfortable is that the actions you hold very dear to yourself in your day to day life are actually blocking you from realizing your own truest potential. This involves a whole lot of unlearning. Unlearning the value you have invested in your work. Unlearning the seemingly desperate situation you think yourself to be in. Unlearning the false narratives in your head about what is more important and what isn't. Unlearning the idea that the next promotion, the next car, the next house, the next vacation, the next weekend is the most important thing in your life. Unlearning the conviction that you'll act on all of this someday in the future when everything else is settled, etc. etc. Know that there is more to life than earning a livelihood. Know that the jobs and the businesses we are engaged in, even if our own, are a means to an end, not an end in themselves. Know that this is an invitation to reconsider how you are approaching life, not what you are doing in it. Know that the problem of livelihood isn't as complex as we are making it out to be. And know that excelling in your job is not the highest potential you can reach as a human being. Know all of this and then act on it. If you do so and do so diligently, you would contribute to humanity in ways you cannot even fathom right now. Because if you don't act on it and don't lift yourself above it all, how do you expect to help someone who is not in your situation today but would be in some time to come? Now that someone could be your partner, could be your children, could be your friends, or even your parents. So consider the work that you do on yourself here as a service you render to all the others you would help later. As that man Ramdas said, I can do nothing for you but work on myself. You can do nothing for me but work on yourself. In the end, we are all just walking each other home. Thank you for spending these past few minutes with me here. If what you just heard resonated with you, make sure you share it with others in your community too, to help spread the word far and wide. Also, a reminder that all of these episodes are also available on YouTube in the form of videos with embedded subtitles. So if you're one of those people who prefer listening and reading instead of only listening, you know where to go. I'll add the link to the YouTube channel in the description of this episode. Do check it out, like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening to this on YouTube already, the like, share, and subscribe part is for you too. Until next time, peace out.